Guys, I want to talk about the most important thing in the whole process of studying English. The most important because it's the technology of learning, the way you do things that will guarantee you that you will actually have success in the end, that you will have the result, that you'll be happy, and your teachers, you will also be happy, and there will be more happiness in the world. So the technology of happiness, that's what I'm going to talk about now. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because, well, I've seen like hundreds and thousands of different people, like students trying to learn the language. Some of them are successful, and I've seen many who've been successful, who are successful, but at the same time I see so many people who are attending English lessons, sometimes doing homework, but day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, not much is changing in their English and their knowledge and skills. Like, they roughly stay on the same level. And I think you know some of them. Maybe you are one of them. And maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but there is a certain, I mean, maybe you don't know the reason, maybe you know the reason, but there's still this reason there why it happens. And it often is not the result of some poor teaching methods or some poor materials or things like that. Or it's not because the person is like not talented, not, well, I don't know, not smart enough to learn the language. No, the main reason is because the people are using wrong technology of learning the language. And the result of this wrong technology is waste. It's terrible. It's like waste of time and effort, and people do something but they don't get anything, and I don't know, I hate it. I really hate it with all of my heart, that people do something and they don't get the result and nothing changes and they don't care, or they don't understand what to do. Anyway, I want to avoid this problem, okay? I just will do anything it takes just for you not to get there, for you to start learning and invest in learning and do things the right way and get there. Achieve your goal. And your goal is, well, let me tell you what your goal is. Maybe you don't know what your goal is. Well, your goal is growth. You want growth, you want improvement, you want to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday. And not just growth like general growth, but growth in certain areas. You want to be more accurate, like when you're speaking English, so fewer mistakes in your speech. You want to be more fluent, like you want to have more freedom of self-expression, like you want to be faster when you're speaking the language. You want growth in variety of the vocabulary and phrases that you're using when you're speaking or writing. Maybe you want growth in pronunciation, like you want to change your pronunciation, you want improvement there. And maybe you also need some development of skills, like listening or writing. Definitely we all want to speak better, that's for sure. Skills, maybe it's your growth in skills, maybe it's your development, improvement, maybe it's your growth, your goal. And I want you to actually sort of imagine what your goal is. Maybe even write it down, or somehow make a list of the things that you want to learn and do, and somehow characterize the kind of English, the kind of skills, the kind of level you would like to have a year from now. Well, maybe you know somebody who speaks English better than you. Maybe you want to be like a native speaker or something. Just have in your mind and in your heart, on the level of emotions, a certain, well, standard or certain role model, maybe, yeah, or maybe some example of the language you would like to have in the future. Because focusing on the goal is the first thing that you need to have if you want to get there, if you want to, I mean, this is the first thing in this correct technology of learning the language. Doing something for a reason with a goal in mind and trying to get somewhere. Not just doing something because your teacher told you to do it, not because, well, that's something that I have to do. No, but doing something, like every time you do something, focus on the goal. And there are very few goals that you can focus on. The goal of understanding, the goal of remembering, and the goal of trying to learn to say something without thinking. This is the goal. To learn to say something without thinking. Because if you can say it sort of reading in your mind and thinking about how to say it, and you forget about the speaker, the person you're speaking with, and the topic, you just read the language that you're producing, and you're not free, you can't relax, you have to be focused and concentrated and thinking. This is not a good level, right? And this is not the kind of English you would like to have in the future. This is not freedom. This is not fluency. So this is the most important thing. You need to learn to speak without thinking. And it takes years, of course, but you can start today. And focusing on this goal, that you need to, while working with the material, you need to understand it, remember it, and then repeat it many times so that you could say it without thinking. So this goal is super important. So I'm challenging you not only to do the tasks that I'm telling you, that I'm giving you, but do them with this goal in mind. I have to make them perfect. I have to make sure that I can say that without thinking, that I understand it, that I remember, and I can автоматически говорить, чтобы от зубов отскакивало. That's the ultimate goal. That's the perfect goal. I know it's hard to achieve it, but it's worth it, and it's better to spend 10 hours trying to achieve that goal, and it's an extra effort or a super effort, or to spend 1 hour, which is very easy, but you won't get anything. It won't get you anywhere. So this is a very, very, very important thing. Please keep that goal in mind. In general, as you go through the process of learning the language, I want you to focus on 3 main areas, or maybe sort of study English in 3 main ways. First way, well, it's obvious, it's very simple, like studying itself. You get some material, you analyze it, you understand it, you practice it. Again, you try to take it to that level, like I told you, but it's like regular, standard way of learning a language. Material, understanding, practice. There's a second way, without which, well, the first way will be very ineffective. And the second way is life. Because, language is an instrument, and you need to use it. And English is like, it's life. It's the environment in which you live. It's like air. And, when you look at the air, and you try to analyze it and see, and it's kind of wrong, right? So that's why I think that studying English is a bit unnatural, because it's unnatural to look at the air. We have to, of course, because how else can we understand certain things? But if you're looking at the air, there's something wrong, either with you or the air. Don't you think? That's why it's not enough just to have this level 1 studying, looking at the language and analyzing it and practicing it. No, you need to use it. And when you're using it, when you're watching something for fun, when you're reading something for fun, when you're communicating with somebody, and you have English as an instrument in your life, then what happens is your mind is focused not on the language, but on the communication, on the ideas, on the emotions, and it's more natural. You're not looking at the air, right? You're looking at the things, and the air is just the environment in which you live, which helps you interact with those things. So life is super important. Like, basically, I'm talking about certain lifestyle. Like when you have English every day, but not only at work, when you discuss the same things with your customers or with somebody, you discuss the same things over and over again. English is so much bigger than that, and you can never, ever, ever develop one side of one part of the English without developing others. Like you cannot speak freely. I mean, you cannot know a language very well if you don't know simple topics, like talking about certain things you do every day. Okay, my point is that it's important to make sure that you read all kinds of English books, all kinds of English articles, watch all kinds of material or videos and so on and so forth. Not only things related to your work. It's good, but it's not enough. You need more, because a native speaker at the age of 21 or 25, whatever, he has the experience, she has the experience of reading all kinds of books, from Shakespeare to textbooks in geography, literature, to some legal contracts, to newspapers and magazines and blogs, and like all kinds of topics this person has had to deal with, and like millions of tons of English of all kinds, well, have gone through the person's brain, and it has developed the feeling of the language. So that's our ultimate goal, to develop the feeling of the language, and it's impossible just by studying and analyzing it and practicing it. You need to have this life, using English as an instrument. And this is super important, and English is like a baby, that is born in your family, and it changes the whole lifestyle. And you can't just say to a baby, like, look, I'm busy, I can't feed you today, just go do it on your own. You can't just look it up in the closet and expect that it will feed itself, right? So English in your life, it needs care, it needs attention, and it needs to be somewhere in the center of your life. And I'm talking to those of you guys who think that English is not the most important part of our life. If you think like that, guys, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It is. And I'm working, and I think like this, and I would like to work with the people who feel that this is the central part of your life. And if you have that approach, if you have access to English, if you deal with English every day for fun, for pleasure, well, you will develop. But there's a third thing you need to do, or a third area that we need to focus on. And the first one was studying, the second one was life, and the third one is, I call it music sport, or sport music. Like, I mean, there's something from both in there. So if we're talking about sport, like when you're training, you need to repeat something many times, right? And when you go to a gym, you do same thing over and over again. You never say, okay, I've done it, I'm not going to do it again ever, right? And same in music. If you're learning to play a musical instrument, or you're learning to sing a song, what you do is you need to repeat the same thing over and over again until it's perfect. So, I mean, I kind of mentioned that already, but here I just want to say that the big part of our learning process should be learning dialects and texts and stories by heart. When you can just say certain things without thinking. And it's not just some words and phrases without thinking, or some grammar without thinking, which I talked about. It's before, but it's the whole piece that you need to be able to say because freely, without mistakes, or with as few mistakes as possible. Basically, and when you're speaking, when you're telling that story that you have learned, you must have that level of freedom of speech that you will have in the future only. Like at the moment, your English level is this, but because you have learned that text perfectly, you can speak using the phrases from the text, and you can speak on this level, much higher level, because this text is there to support you, and you can sound so much better than that. So, I mean, so much better than your current level. So it's super important to learn things by heart, and actually that's how you learn to play like I said, the musical instrument. You take one piece and you repeat it many times, and you can learn this piece perfectly. You can play it perfectly, this musical piece. And you cannot play others. You cannot play the piano very well, but you can learn this one and play this one perfectly. And then you'll learn the next one, then the next one, then the next one, and like a year from that time, you understand, oh my God, now I can play the piano. So your big general skill, your ability to speak the language, is not only freely, it's not only the result of some grammar knowledge and some grammar practice, not only the result of your life experience, but it's also the result of this learning to say things perfectly like to tell the story perfectly or to tell the dialect perfectly without thinking. And all these things together, they will lead to the increase or the improvement and development and change in your level, and you will grow and you'll be super cool. And I guarantee you, like, you'll be there if you do these things. But the problem is that people don't have energy for that. They don't have time, yeah, and don't have energy. But I don't believe in time. I mean, the lack of time. If you really want something, if something is priority for you, you will always find time for that. 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, you can find that time. But energy, like where to get the energy? And well, I will talk about it a little bit later today. But there's also another problem. The problem that people may do certain things and still not get the result. I mean, do certain tasks that I give you, that I tell you to do, and they will not get the result. The level will stay on the same. I've seen it many times, like I said, and the reason is that because people are doing this without challenges. Like there is no challenge in what they're doing for them. Like it's too easy for them, maybe, or it's of the same kind, of the same familiar topic, and things like this. And just because you're doing something doesn't mean it will automatically lead to a result. Okay, please make sure that you don't only have a goal and you focus on it. Make sure there is effort. Make sure there is sweat streaking down your cheek. Okay, you sweat blood when you're studying English, when you're trying to learn something, when you exercise like in a gym, when you try. And this effort that you make when trying to remember something, when trying to learn something, this effort will make sure that you will grow and improve. It's like in sport. If you take 1 kilogram here, 1 kilogram there, and start exercising, it won't work, right? You will not be stronger. But if you take 15 and 15, well, that's when you start growing. Maybe 25, 25, or 35, 35 for some of you. Yeah, guys, but you understand, yeah? So you have to have effort. Without effort, you can't grow. The knowledge that you receive is important, but if you don't have effort, you're not growing. So I'm challenging you to have this effort. And having this effort, or making this effort, means, well, a variety of things. So, for example, you can change, well, of course, complexity of the language that you're dealing with, or variety. You can make sure that there is more variety of the language that you deal with, like not only language connected with work, but also some, I don't know, poetry, some news, some well, other topics that you can understand in Russian, that you can deal with in Russian freely, but in English you don't understand them very well, or you cannot speak about that very well. The thing about English is that your ultimate goal, I mean, is that you need to know in English everything that you know in Russian. And if you want to be free in English, you have to know and be able to do everything. Like, there should be no division between, okay, I'm going to use it, so I'm going to learn it, or I'm not going to use it, so I'm not going to learn it. It's bullshit, guys, okay? It's not going to work like that. You have to learn absolutely everything and try to remember and make effort and try to practice absolutely everything, whatever the word, because English is big. And if your passive vocabulary of English isn't big, your active will never be big either. You know, you're never gonna speak a very good English because you don't have a huge passive vocabulary. Like if you look at your Russian, that's the situation you have in Russian. You know so much in Russian, but you never use that. But this knowledge that is inside you develops the feeling of the language in you, and that's why you can speak so freely using very, very few of the words you actually know. So the same should be in English. You should know everything, learn everything. Never, never, ever ask yourself the question, why do I need to learn it? or ask me this question, why do I need to learn it? I will never use it. It doesn't matter. Somebody will use it, and you will have to understand it. You will have to understand it. You will have to see it or hear it and see, oh, I understand. You should not get shocked, like, what is that? Okay, anyway, guys, I hope you understood me. Please study English. Goodbye.